Hey guys, this is Josh from Some Stuffs, and today I'm making this video to talk about something that I've wanted to speak my mind on for a while, and it's about what is the appeal of Some Stuffs when it comes to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So for those of you who know who we are, we fan sub JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. As of making this video, we have subbed 37 episodes of Part 5, which is all that are out right now, and we have subbed every other previous episode of the series, including the Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan OVAs, and I believe that's it. And we've subbed a few trailers too, but that mostly sums it up. So, the question now is, what exactly do we add to JoJo, or what do we change that makes our subtitles worth watching? And so I've asked people on Twitter about this, and I've also asked people on Discord and other places, just people in the community, what reasons they watch our subs for. And a lot of what I get is that we change the names to their proper ones. Some people will say like we uncensor it, which is a fair way to put it. That our wording is better, that we basically make the subtitles read a little bit better, and so on and so forth. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what exactly goes into each episode of JoJo that we do and why we do it. So first, let's start from the beginning. What is the first thing that happens to an episode of JoJo? So when the series is airing on TV, the first thing that will happen is that our translator, Lord Starfish, he just does a translation check of the Crunchyroll script. And so not all of you may realize this, but our JoJo subs are actually a Crunchyroll edit. A very extensive Crunchyroll edit, I might add, but a Crunchyroll edit nonetheless. So what Lord Starfish will do is he will go over the script, and basically he'll do two things. One is that he will correct any mistranslations that he comes across. More recently, there hasn't been quite as many. Crunchyroll has actually been fairly decent when it comes to translation accuracy. And the other thing he does is that he will also, in a way, undo the editing, as in he'll make everything read a little bit more literally. And you may be wondering, well, what's the purpose of that? Why would you want it to read more literally, especially if it comes with a harder to read script? And so that's where I come in. So I'm the next step in the process, and what I will do is I will go through the episode and I will basically edit each line, keeping a couple things in mind. So the first thing to keep in mind is that I will change the line so that it is in what I would consider more pleasing sounding English. I'll try to make it read naturally and make the dialogue sort of flow in a way that is pleasing and also easy to read. And basically I just do that as a way to make the viewing experience a little bit less intrusive and to not take away from the show. The other thing I will do is I'll intentionally edit the dialogue for each character so that it sort of expresses their personality a little bit better. So I'm sure those of you who are well-read will understand this, but one of the biggest aspects of characters in any story is how they talk. And so what I like to do is I have basically my own idea of what the character is that I get from watching the show, and I've read the manga, of course, so I have some experience with the story already. And I will also consult with Lord Starfish, who is a fluent Japanese speaker, and I'll basically make a picture of what I want this character to sound like in English in my head. And then I'll edit their lines, and I do this for every single character in the show. Some to a lesser degree than others, especially like minor characters who only show up for maybe an episode or two at most. I won't put quite as much effort into it. But for the main characters, I do try to give them a distinct voice so that when you read their lines, you'll read that and say, oh, that's a Mista line, that's a Narantia line, that's Giorno, it's Bucciolati, whatever character it may be. And so that's kind of where you could say the creative aspect of it comes in, because what I would say what I personally think differentiates us the most from other subtitles is just that, is that We actually do put character editing into our subs, which some people may, not be too keen on. I know some people prefer a more flat translation that they say is more accurate. That's something I disagree with, but the idea basically is just to sort of localize it basically and kind of make it appealing to native English speakers, because Japanese and English are just the way they are. They're very incompatible languages. There's basically no direct translation of any word that is absolutely perfect. Like if you take Spanish or French or German, for example, those languages are much easier to translate back and forth from, because there's many words that mean exactly the same thing in both languages, and their sentence structure is very similar. With Japanese, that's not the case. They are not neighbors at all. They basically have nothing in common. And so that presents a little bit of a challenge when it comes to translation. And so when you are working on a series like Jojo or any Japanese series, if you don't add sort of your own creative spin on it, where you're sort of taking liberties with the translation, a lot of times things can end up sounding very flat if the translator is just trying to translate the dialogue exactly as it is without bringing any over connotations that are not in the Japanese script. And so the hard part about that is that by not bringing over those connotations, you're losing the connotations that the Japanese script has, because there are certain ways Japanese is able to communicate certain things about characters that just don't work in English. Like, for example, just by the way a character speaks, not by their accent or their voice, just the words they use, you can usually tell quite a bit about the speaker, such as how old they are, whether they're a man or a woman, a little boy or a little girl. Just so much information that is impossible to carry over into English. Or if you did, it would be really jarring and noticeable and ugly and not fun to read. And so no matter what, even a translation that claims to be the most accurate translation possible, you are going to lose some of that context that is just impossible to carry over. So I try to kind of, in a way, translate those connotations, and I don't use them verbatim. I do try to incorporate some of them as much as I can. For example, the character Shigechi from Diamond is Unbreakable, one of his little ticks in Japanese is that he'll use a D sound in place of, like, I believe it's an S sound, like, instead of, or no, it's the T sound, that's right, I'm sorry. So instead of to, for example, which is a very common Japanese character, he'll say do instead, and it kind of just makes him come off as really dumb because he can't say it right. And so I actually kind of did that myself. I made his TH sounds, like that, the, into dat, da, and that kind of thing. And so it's not exactly the same, but it's within the spirit of the original. And so it's things like that I try to do to kind of bridge the gap a little bit and kind of give English speakers that experience that a Japanese person might get while watching JoJo. That aside, we also do a couple other things. We retime the script to make the lines a little bit easier to read. We add proper lead in and lead out, and just kind of make everything look a little bit cleaner and more consistent. That's not something most people are probably privy to notice, but if you're paying attention, we do basically retime the whole script from scratch. The other thing we do is that we do our own typesetting. So our Impress BT main font is kind of famous at this point. We actually took it from One Piece fan subs. I'm sure a couple of you already knew that, but we kind of took it for JoJo, and so a lot of people know us by our main font. And aside from that, we also translate the openings and the endings if necessary, which hasn't been so far. Those have all been in English pretty much. But yeah, we translate all the openings ourselves. That's all done in-house. Crunchyroll doesn't do that, so it's on us to supply our own translation. And so that's what we do. And if there's anything else that Crunchyroll didn't do, like there have been times where they they haven't translated signs or stuff like that, we'll translate the signs and include that in our release as well. So you get a little bit of extra translation when it comes to our releases. Um, and I guess that's really all I wanted to say about that. If you have any questions about what I've just talked about, please comment below. I did this whole video in one take, kind of off the cuff. And I hope that this will sort of be a good introduction to what exactly it is that makes our JoJo subs interesting. I can't personally say how good they are or not, considering that I work on them myself, but I'd be curious to know what you guys like about our subs, if maybe this video made you appreciate what work we do put into them. What I'll try to do is I'll list a couple examples, maybe in the description, of differences between our translation and Crunchyroll, and you can sort of decide for yourself if the changes we've made make sense or if you like them. You know, I'm always happy to give people more options. If you like Crunchyroll and you're not really interested in any of the things I just mentioned, that's totally fine. I think even though the stand names and some of the character names are changed, I think Crunchyroll's translation is totally fine. I just personally prefer to have something a little bit more interesting when it comes to writing, and that's basically why we work on JoJo, is we want what we consider the best version of the show to be out there for people to sort of get from us and enjoy. So I hope those of you who have watched us already have enjoyed it, and we will continue to in the future. As far as what's on the horizon for us, this is going to really date this video, but we still have to work on episodes 38 and 39 of Golden Wind, which we will do probably within about a week or so. And we are also going to be working on the Golden Wind Blu-ray batch, which that will be probably coming out late 2020, and I'll be supplying more updates about that as time goes on. So look forward to that. If you'd like to talk to me or anyone else on our team personally, feel free to join our Discord server. You can find a link to that on the site. And yeah, if you like this video and would maybe like to see more videos talking about our fan subbing process, whether it be for JoJo or Pokemon or whatever else you're interested in, leave a comment, tell me what you want to see or whatever, and we'll think about it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.